Welcome to All the Right Marketing, where we talk with business owners and industry leaders about marketing their programs and products. Our guests share tips that can help anyone who loves stories, whether you are a librarian, bookseller, author, publisher, writer, what have you. The truth of the matter here is that the advice coming out of these conversations are for creative marketing across industries. It's really all about how we are getting our stories out there. And today's guest, Lynn Sanders, is going to talk about catapulting your business through the power of stories. She has always loved stories and music, and after teaching music, she shifted to becoming a writer and a director of client services at a commercial music house in Chicago. This is so exciting. You're going to love hearing from Lynn today. Over 30 years ago, she started writing her own boutique stories and has written videos and articles, marketing materials, speeches, newsletters, and more. Now she is the producer and host of The Difference Makers online show and serves a variety of entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and business owners who are dedicated to providing products and services that empower and transform lives. So welcome, Lynn, from thedifferencemakersmedia.com.
Thank you, Maria. I'm excited to be here.
Wow, you have a whole slew of things that you've done in your time here on Earth, but tell us a little bit more about Difference Makers Media. What do you do over there?
So my passion is helping difference makers, people who have a mission to empower and inspire and transform lives, tell their stories to make a bigger influence, bigger impact, and attract more revenue. Because really, if you think about it, every day is like a story. Every day we're opening up a new page, and we get to choose what kind of difference we want to make. So I have a story behind the stories that I've written that I'd love to share with you that I think will be really helpful for people to, connect with. Because really, we're all communicating not just physically, but we're communicating spiritually, mentally. Every word, every thought, and every action carries a vibration. It's an energy that we can feel.
So true. Go ahead. Tell us that story, Lynn.
Okay. I think a lot of us live life unconsciously. We're doing different things in our lives, but we are not really conscious of what is our greatest priority. How do we want to live our lives? What's the why behind what we're doing? So I have loved being a writer. I am still a writer all the time, but I used to take on projects that weren't meaningful to me. I was doing writing like for ACO USA, the world's largest office supply manufacturer, about paper clips and staplers and binders. And I wrote for Molex, a big computer components company. I did videos for them on input-output connectors, which I found actually boring, but they loved my writing because I made it fun, So what happened was I got a wake-up call. And I think, we all can have things happen in our lives that shake us, and it makes us realize, are we on track? Are we really doing what we love? What happened was 3 major upheavals happened in my life. One was on December 16th, 2004, my mother suddenly passed away from a heart attack. And she was my rock and my best friend. And I didn't even know how I was going to go on, even though I was an adult, but I really didn't know if I even wanted to keep living. That's how strong it was. And I got eventually healed by an energy worker, because what happened was everything that happens to us on the inside affects us on the outside. I want everyone to realize that. I was so grief-stricken that I ended up with 3 slip discs in my back. I could barely walk. I was told I was a great candidate for surgery, but I didn't want surgery. So an energy healer, someone I didn't even believe would help, ended up helping me, and the disc went back into alignment because he asked me one simple question, and that was, do you want to live? And I said, well, I guess so. That's how down I was. And then he said, well, how would your mother want you to live? How could you best honor her memory? So that was a turning point, and I recognized that I would want to live fully because that's what my mother would want, and that would be best way to honor her memory. So I healed, and I started taking on projects very carefully that were projects that make a difference, whether they're in healthcare or social services, social justice. I started going for my dreams. I had a book that was in my heart for a long time that had not gotten published by a traditional publisher. And I thought, maybe I should go for it and self-publish. So what happened, unbelievable as it sounds, I had just finished creating with my colleagues a nationally award-winning patient safety video, things you should know before entering the hospital. And shortly afterwards, I myself was a victim of a medical error, and I had a near brush with death.
Oh my goodness.
Second wake-up call. And I thought, why is this happening? There's got to be a reason. And my mother actually came to me in a dream. I was in the airport in Denver, planning to go on a plane in a severe pain because the hospital had basically given me the wrong diagnosis. And the flight was canceled 3 times at the gate.
Oh.
So I felt it was my mother and my angels watching over me. I don't know if anyone listening believes in that, but I feel that we all are connected at a deep level, beyond the physical. And in the hospital, my mother came to me in a dream and sang a beautiful song with a message from the Bible that I wasn't even aware of. This is the day that God hath made.
Wow.
And it was a message to be present. And so at that point, I started moving forward and I self-published a book. I did crowdfunding because I wanted to get it out and I was tired of waiting 20 years.
Yeah.
And so I created a book that became a bestseller and won an award from the Illinois Conservation Foundation. It's called Dancing with Tex, T-E-X, The Remarkable Friendship to Save the Whooping Cranes. It's a true story of a man's friendship with a rare bird who thought she was a person, and how they danced together over 6 years to help her lay a fertile egg. And then one of my very dear friends, who was my wingman on my online video programs, because I developed my own online show at this time, he passed away from a 4th stroke. I published his book because so many of us have stories that never get out there. And also right before my Dancing with textbook, I was given an offer by a traditional company to write a story on social justice. So I created a nonfiction story that was published by Capstone Press called Social Justice, How You Can Make a Difference. Fantastic. So basically, to summarize it all, I want everyone to recognize that we all have value and we have stories within us that need to come out to make a difference. And that's why I ended up changing my company name from Park Avenue Productions to Difference Makers Media, because I feel strongly that we need to share our stories to help make a difference.
Oh, sorry. Can you tell me then? Okay, so this is really great. And your background story, I think, is very helpful in leading to my question. If someone is listening and they have a story to share, one format is writing a book, and you shared that with us. But what are some other ways that you help people to take their story that makes a difference into media? So what are some different forms that you're helping people through the work that you do?
Good question. Well, I served as a publicity consultant, I still do, for different nonprofits, and they had stories that they didn't realize were so important. So I do story strategy sessions, you can call them story coaching, where I sit down with people, they tell me what's going on, and I craft a story that makes it sound very appealing and compelling to the media with a headline that's exciting. And then I have submitted these stories to the traditional media. But I also learned that sometimes the traditional media doesn't always publish your story, or the TV doesn't, reporters don't always come to the event because sometimes something else might be considered a priority. So I studied from a national leader, Alex Mondosian, and learned to create my own online show, The Difference Makers. So I can help people with their story strategies, with coaching, putting their story, into a book. I'm also very comfortable and have fun with helping people on online video interviews, because it's a different thing to write, as many of you writers know, than to be comfortable speaking on camera. And you need to have certain tips that are in your mind, so you know how to speak to the camera, make sure you have the right lighting, the sound, the background, and even have some practice. So I do that. And then I also help people with their social media marketing. And I've developed a number of connections over the last couple of decades so that I can not only promote a person's story, let's say it's in a video on my social media channels, but I can send it to other organizations and have them promote it. And actually, just so you know, I have a connection with an organization called Wonderful Living TV, and they're taking my content of videos and putting it on their 4 live streaming platforms: Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Prime, and Amazon Fire, that gets over 3 million hits every month.
Wow.
So not that all 3 million will come, but that we do get a lot of attention through our connections.
So what are some helpful tips? If you could take, let's, so that we're looking at our time here, what if you could take 2 to 3 tips for writers who have books out in the world? What are 2 to 3 tips that you can give to them to help them get that story into the world? What are some, you said that you craft these stories to submit to media. So what are 2 to 3 tips in crafting that? Typically we call that a press release. Like, what are 2 to 3 tips you could say to make that really stand out from the rest?
Thank you. That's a great question. Well, many people, when they're telling their story, they come from the what they do, how they do it, they leave out the why. And that is the most important thing, because the why makes you stand out. That's why I told my story. You may not remember every word, but you would get to know that I'm different than another writer or publisher because of the challenges I went through and the accomplishments that I made after going through those challenges. So start with your why. Why do you do what you do? And put that in your press release, put that in your headline, because people will get to know, like, and trust you that way. Secondly, video is the most important tool you can use. Even though I love writing and I love books, and I'm sure all of your listeners love books, the truth is that more people are watching video than they're reading. And just the other day, I checked to see how many people watch YouTube videos. Believe it or not, over 5 billion hits are happening on YouTube every day. So ask yourself, how many videos do you have on YouTube? And if not, it's never too late to start, because you can take a little snippet of your story. You can use videos in multiple ways and get people to pay attention to who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it.
Wow.
So why video? And also, the last thing I would recommend is get testimonials, because people don't always listen to you, but they'll listen to what others have to say about you. So when I've written my books, I was really careful to make sure I got testimonials that I put actually on the back cover and the inside of my books, so that people will recognize that this is worth reading.
Wow, those are great takeaways, Lynn. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I love that you're sharing years of experience with our listeners, and I thank you for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Lynn does have a 7-step story guide available at her website, and it's free. So we're going to go ahead and link to differencemakersmedia.com. It will be in the show notes. And then if you would like to connect with Lynn after the interview, you can find her at many different places. We will put her Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram social media handles in the show notes. Now, where would you say you are most active, Lynn, on those 4 different social media platforms?
I would say both LinkedIn and Facebook. Perfect. And I have a personal page on Facebook, Lynn B. Sanders, and I have Difference Makers Media on Facebook. And I also love LinkedIn because it's great for business to business.
Okay.
But I do some tweets on Twitter and a little bit on Instagram. So, and then there's another community too. You can find me at something called Be Connected, BeeKonnected, LynnSanders.BeConnected.com.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know that we are here every Tuesday with a new episode, sharing different ways that you can get your messages out into the world through media, through video, all different ways, because marketing is at the core of really getting people to hear what your message is. Thank you, Lynn, for being here. My name is Maria Dismondy from Cardinal Rule Press, and stay tuned to our next interview in 1 week on Tuesday.